Are you looking to get ready, be prepared, and transform your financial future? Then you've come to the right place. This is the Get Ready Money podcast with Tony Stewart, where Tony has insightful conversations with financial experts who are changing the way we think about money. Catch up on the latest financial trends and hear practical advice from Tony and his expert guests so you can build healthy habits that work. Be empowered with tips for implementing small changes that can have a big impact on your financial future. So sit back and get ready to hear from today's guest.
Welcome to the Get Ready Money podcast, changing the way we think about money. I'm pleased to be joined today by Prudence Zhu. Prudence is the founder and CEO of Baoba USA. In this episode, we'll be discussing Prudence's thoughts on how we change the way we think about money and living a life that we love. Prudence, welcome to the Get Ready Money show.
Thank you, Tony. Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you on today. So this is a question I ask everybody to get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your origin story?
Oh, happy to do so. So I grew up in China, born in the mid 80s. I came to the US in 2022 for my MBA program, and I graduated in 2014. And since then, I was building my financial independence or financial freedom. Back then, I still didn't know financial planning. I didn't know it was a thing. So I just calculated 4%. So basically, I calculated my annual expenses and multiplied by 25. And set that, which is 2 million at the time, as my financial goal. And I achieved that in 2021. Since then, I was, what's the next phase in my life? Now I can do whatever I want with my life. And I settled on financial coaching and financial planning. That's why I founded Baoba USA. And here I am.
Well, that's awesome. And that's exciting that you were able to achieve your goal at such an early age. I mean, just to go a little bit deeper on that for a minute is there like one or two things that really you think made the difference for you as opposed to other people?
Yeah, I would say just distill to two. One is that both me and my husband were very diligent workers. We had our salary increase year over year, and we also save around 40% year after year. And the second thing is that we really got lucky. In 2020, we moved to Phoenix, and we purchased a second house, and that house basically increased in value 50% in the first couple of years, and stayed there, even though there has been fluctuations. So that was a big boost to our net worth. And if you remember in 2021, that was also the year where the market was crazy. And because in 2020, there were a lot of people panicking and taking their money out of the stock market. It was as low as, I remember, 33,000 something for SP 500. But then it was increased to the height of 4,800, right? And so that's why we got lucky both with the stock market and the house. And both me and my husband are long-term investors. So we basically have a strategy and then keep investing.
Yeah, well, I love that. Long-term investors staying steady. I think that's something that people sometimes overlook. Well, of course, saving a large percentage of your income is so important. I think people oftentimes just don't make that very simple correlation that the more you save, the more you're going to have.
Exactly. Because a lot of times people think that, I make good money, my salary is going to increase, but then you get into the trap of making more, spending more, and now you cannot get out of it, right? And then if something, God forbidden, if something happens with your job security, then everything crumbles, or the economy is unstable.
Definitely. Well, I think you bring up something important there too, is about lifestyle creep, is that piling on more expenses when your income goes up instead of maybe putting aside a larger percentage of your bonus or something like that. And I think people oftentimes don't overlook these very simple rules. So Prudence, obviously you were inspired to do something new. what particularly inspired you to empower people to get control of their money, to make that a
So
mission?
yeah, that's a very good question. So as a first generation immigrant, I've seen so many sad stories, not only for the first generation, but the second generation, where their parents came to the US, sacrificed everything, and worked so hard to put them through medical school or law school. And now they're obligated to follow this path that's prescribed by the parents. And as a result, even if they are really successful, they might be really sad in terms of happiness. And in my opinion, that's 2 or 3 generations of kind of people not living to their fullest potential and may have regrets at, towards the end of their life. And I personally saw the potential of not living that life, but through planning and investing. And I just want to spread that around for more people.
Well, and I think that's an important message is because I think especially with first generation people is, that there's a very strong desire, well, almost to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And, that they don't take anything for granted, like people who are multi-generationals, they take a lot of things for granted. And, the first generation, second generation people appreciate all the opportunities that they're given and as well as maximize the opportunity. But at the same time, as you point out, is they're not as happy
Mm-hmm.
because of that. So
Especially if it's not something they want to do.
exactly. I know what you're talking about. So, one of the things, you talked about your own personal financial freedom is, could you define for the audience, what is financial freedom and why is it important? How does it help people?
That's a very philosophical question. I think for everybody, the answer might be different. But for me, is financial freedom is free of the consideration for money when you are making decisions, meaning you don't have to sacrifice your other values when you're making a decision, and having the resource to give back to the society.
I love that definition, is to not sacrifice their values, because I think people sometimes or quite often don't include their values when they're thinking about their money. And, that I think your definition is easy. It's free of consideration for money, because I think that's the root of it, financial freedom. And I talk about this in my new book, as opposed to retirement planning.
Mm-hmm.
It's really financial freedom because, like, you didn't retire when you reached your financial freedom number. You just changed what you were doing and are living in a different way. And I think that's what people need to realize is that, it is your own definition. And that's why I love that you've defined it for yourself and are helping other people meet their dreams and goals.
Yeah.
So that's
But
awesome.
I do have to point out that it's not free from money or financial considerations, because that's always in the consideration. But that shouldn't be your predominant consideration, right?
Excellent clarification on that. Yeah, is you still need to think about money, but your decisions shouldn't be driven by money.
Right.
Exactly. At that point.
Or
so that's
money.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, let's get into the get ready questions. The first one is, what basic money concept do you wish people knew?
I think, was it Einstein who said the compounded interest is the eighth wonder of the world? And I just want to add a little bit to that, because it goes both ways. Because it can be a return or it can be an interest cost, right? If you think of in terms of credit card debt, in that case, you are owning debt and it's compounding at 20% rate. So basically, your debt would double in less than 4 years. And most people don't realize that. And now you're comparing a person who's consistently investing in index fund, for example, with very low cost. They're gaining 10% year over year. And the people in debt, they're losing 20% year over year. Then you'll see like the difference right there. So compounding interest not only will increase your wealth if you invest correctly, it might also damage your financial situation if you are in high interest debt. Is that understandable?
That is totally understandable. And I
Okay.
love it is because I've had a lot of guests, a very common answer is compound interest, but I don't recall anybody talking about the compound effect on debt. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a missing part of the conversation. So I love that you brought it up. And, if I have any basketball fans out there, they might relate to this. Is so when I was playing basketball, if you had an offensive play and you lost the basketball and the other team scored a point, is the coach said, you gave up 4 points. The 2 points you should have had if you didn't make your mistake, plus the 2 points the other team scored.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that's a way, to look at this. So I love that you brought that up. That's an excellent point. And it's a positive and negative reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fantastic. So what is one simple thing people can do each year to set themselves up for financial success?
So I have a CPA background and I do handle a lot of people's taxes. And what I realized over the years is that a lot of people think that, oh, if I get a refund, I don't have a tax problem. But the reality is that they are not using what's available to them to build their financial wealth or financial wellness. So, for example, there are so many pre-tax accounts out there that people are not using, and things like HSA, 401k, or if you are in a low tax bracket, you can use Roth IRA to stash away some money for retirement, and that money would grow tax-free. So basically, this serves two folds, right? Because we're trying to promote people to think ahead of time about their finances. So it not only would help people to get into the habit of setting up for a successful future, but also benefit from the tax savings, either current tax saving or down the road from the growth. So I would say, yeah, tax planning for anybody, basically. If you're in a low tax bracket, there are so many things you can use. If you're in a high tax bracket, there are so many things you can use, but different things.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point because I think a lot of people are into the conception that you have to be wealthy to do tax planning. And, your message, I'm with 100% is tax planning is for everyone. It just may not be the same thing.
Yep.
So that's great advice. So what is one habit that people can change when it comes to their money?
That's a good question. So I think, okay, I'm going to offend a lot of people. So one habit right now is to stop buying from Amazon.
Okay.
So that is just crazy because a lot of times when I see my clients' transactions, they don't realize how much small transactions they are putting on Amazon without thinking. They're probably thinking, oh, we need this, we better get that. And one button, it's like taking money from your credit card and showing up. The product is showing up on your door. And at the end of the year, if you add all those transactions together, it's easily thousands of dollars for things that you don't really realize you're spending money on. And
I
it's
love
getting
that.
worse and worse as the time goes by. Because now, like the other day, I was doing a comparison, like Amazon versus Kid to Kid, which is a secondhand kid store that's like in our neighborhood. They also have new products because my daughter was going to a dance lesson. So she needed a bunch of, tip-tap shoe and, ballet shoe and outfit and all that. So when I add the cart in Amazon, it was $80. And I went to Kit, it was $35. So at the beginning, you would think Amazon is saving me money and it's convenient and it's like, you don't have to think about it. But now Amazon is actually more expensive than the retail stores. Not to mention it's squeezing all the profit margin from all the manufacturers and pushing all the real stores. That's the supporting factor of the greater economy out of business. So for your own wallet and for the macro economy, like please stop buying on Amazon, or at least like think about it before you do it.
No, I think that, that's a lot to think about, but I think your points are really compelling. And I think, one thing to even add on to that is what is the prime, $180 a year that everybody pays without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gone up quite a bit from, I think it started at $100 a year.
Seriously, like if you compare that with a Costco card, Costco is 50, and you save like probably 50 cents on every gallon you get from Costco gas station. And Costco is committed to 15% of margin on all their products. And if you compare Amazon, it's easily like 50%. And that's like right there. Like what's the value the Prime is providing? Saving you some trips to the retail store, but it's actually costing you a lot of money.
I love that. I have not seen a study on that, but that would make an interesting study.
Yeah.
I am making a note.
So when I was in corporate world, we are a big candy manufacturer. So that's why I know all the retail margins. Aldi and Costco are by far the best, but dollar stores and Amazon are by far the worst.
Yeah, dollar stores I've heard interesting things about. I haven't read any real analysis on that, but I'm with you on Amazon. Is the other thing too, I think people don't realize is that Amazon uses dynamic pricing. And so if you're shopping on Amazon, a good tip is to always go to an anonymous browser and see if the item is the same price. Have you encountered that dynamic pricing?
Yeah, so one easy one is that if you select a product and it has different patterns or colors, I always go for the cheapest because I don't care, right?
Okay.
And sometimes I would even see if there's used in terms of books. That way it's like easy money saved.
Yeah, now that you mention it, when I think about it, I can't remember what we were looking at at a shirt, that my son wanted, and we were flipping through the different colors. His price changed.
Yep.
And I was like, that's so weird. But yeah, it's buyer beware, but I think it gets to mindful spending and tracking.
Yeah. I think that's at the end of the day what I was trying to get at. But the thing is that if you just tell people to think more about spending, they're not going to listen. That's why I'm saying stop buying on Amazon, make it a target, and then you'll realize like many other situations, like you would see the difference.
100%, 100%. That's great advice. So, Prudence, what money myth are you trying to break?
Well, so here, now we're back to the conscious spending, right? So a lot of times people say, okay, when I have more money, I'd love to spend money without thinking about it. And that's a very dangerous thought to have, because most people with that thought would not deal very well with that money. What I'm saying is that for the first generation millionaires, they get there not because they're spending money without thinking, but they got there because they are making good money, saving and investing diligently year after year. So
well, I think
yeah.
Well, I think one thing I'm getting from that is that, don't forget what got you there. Don't change your habits when you have success. And going back to your story, is that was something it sounded like for you and your husband, is that you didn't change your habits as you started achieving financial independence.
I think we did change a little bit because we valued a lot more on comfort and convenience. Whereas before we would save a penny for the sake of saving. Whereas now we are more objective in terms of thinking what's the cost of getting that convenience and what's the value we're getting out of it.
Well, I think that's great advice. Become objective about the cost and the value that it provides. Because I think that's really, and that gets back to the habit that you were talking about, is becoming objective about the cost is, talking about Amazon is people don't, everybody is conditioned, as you point out, to think, well, Amazon's the lowest price,
Mm-mm,
and they're not.
not
For
anymore.
certain things they may be, but yeah, and they're
Yeah,
definitely not.
not when you're thinking the habit of just clicking the button and get whatever you have the split second of thinking that you need. So basically, like that's what they want from the get-go, basically. They created the Prime, they created the same day delivery, all for that purpose, so that people would spend more. And people did.
Yeah, well, that's why Jeff Bezos is, one of the five richest people in the world. I don't know exactly where he ranks, but yeah, it's all psychological manipulation. But that's a topic for a different show,
Yeah.
the psychological manipulation. So, Prudence, if we got out the time machine now, what advice would you give your younger self if you could go back in time knowing what you know now about money?
I would say, well, it's interesting. When you sent me the notes, I had a different answer. And now I think I would go back and tell myself, you're going to be awesome. You're going to be fine. Just keep confident in your ability, in your financial habits, and you don't have to achieve that financial freedom to live your dream. Because if I think back, I didn't need that 2 million to build my financial confidence to like jump on the things that I really want to do. Granted that in those years in corporate finance, I built my skill set and network that would set me up for success in launching my new business. But the mindset back then was that I needed a stable job because I have a family, because I had mortgage, because I had car loans. But in reality, I could have planned way earlier and started my real life like way earlier.
But that's okay. Life is a journey. But
Yep.
but you did gain confidence from that, and that's really cool. And I think, I mean, for everybody else too that's listening is, I think your message that you're going to be fine is okay, because I think we oftentimes forget that, it's the decisions we make going forward
Mhm.
that are the important ones in our financial lives. It's not the decisions in the past, because you can't change them. We can't change the past. So it's learning and growing, and that's awesome advice.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
think it's hard.
I think I have no regrets. I'm really grateful for everything that's happened in my life. Even some are good, some are bad. Um, the important thing is that I had lessons coming out of those experiences, and now I'm helping more people to take less detours and get to their destination or reach their goals like as fast as they can.
And I think that's awesome to share the knowledge to help others. That's such a great mission to do. So, Prudence, to wrap up, what is your number one tip on changing the way we think about money?
Hmm. So So recently I started getting trained on life planning. And I
Ah,
believe a lot of it is really the essence of money. Money is
mhm.
intertwined with life. So when you're talking about money, it's talking about your life, your values. So when you're making any financial decisions, make a point that it represents your values. Make a point that, remember, what you spend money on is a vote for you to change the world. So if you spend money on Amazon, Amazon is going to grow and it's going to take over the world and create more trash and make people poorer. Well, that's extreme, but that's one of the possibilities, right? You know what I'm saying. But if you instead buy secondhand, then you're helping the environment, helping your wallet. So
Mhm.
essentially, every financial decision you make is a vote to change the world. I think not many people realize how powerful that is, but every day they are making that decision. Either it's like unconscious or it's intentional decision.
That's awesome advice, because I don't think we think much about that sometimes, is that we sometimes, don't put our money where our mouth is. We may say, we're against this or we're for this and that, and then we end up supporting companies that don't go in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
That we are, maybe we're not always stockholders, but in essence, we are stockholders because we contribute to the profits of a company. And if we don't agree with the way that they're doing business, spending money there is not going to help them. Or as you point out, with Kid to Kid, you're supporting a local business
Mm-hmm.
that's going to continue to create a place for other parents to bring their kids to get things. And if you don't support that business, I buy books at local bookstores, and I know that I pay more at the local bookstores, but I want to support the business.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see bookstores continue.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So I think that's important for people, is, to balance that out, is, your desire to save versus your desire to make this a better world,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
your value.
Yeah.
So just curious, is that the George Kinder life planning?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great stuff. For the financial planners in the community, I'd encourage you to check out the work that George Kinder is doing with it's the Life Care Planning Institute. Is that the name? I'm trying to remember.
Kinder Institute. Yeah.
The Kinder Institute. It's a very different way of looking at the financial world. And for those of you who've been listening to the podcast, I've interviewed quite a few people who've gone through the Kinder planning training. So it's exciting that you mention that, because it keeps coming back to that. So that's great.
Yes. At the end of the day, we're all trying to make this world a better place.
Yeah. Definitely. And, it's your money. You can spend it as you want to. So, I think that's important. And I think for advisors, it's important to remember that it's your client's money, mm-hmm. and it's how they feel about their money that are going to make a difference. And if you want a happy client, help them, listen to them.
Yep, absolutely. That's so important. And I think this emotional side of money needs to be discussed and understood more in order for people to have clarity and have a better understanding of their decisions. And I absolutely encourage you to keep this going, because we do need to change the way we think about money. And at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your decision, and make it matter.
That's great closing words. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's your money, make it matter. Mm-hmm. So that's great. Well, Prudence, where can people find out more about you, learn about your company, check out what you're up to? I know you have a YouTube channel. Tell us a little bit about that.
Thanks. So I have a YouTube channel called Invest with Prudence, where I talk about tax and wealth strategies that you can use to live your best life. And since I'm very engaged in the entrepreneurship world, I'm also providing knowledge and tips for small business owners and people who are thinking of becoming one. So
fantastic.
Subscribe and let me know what topics you want to hear, and I'll maybe I'll produce a video based on your feedback.
That's awesome. And you're also active on LinkedIn, right? And any other social media platforms?
Yeah. So primarily it's YouTube and LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can find me under Prudence Zhu. It's Zhu is ZHU. I have weekly newsletters, and I have updates on my thoughts and life and business. So it's definitely a more comprehensive than YouTube. And if you're interested in my service, you can go to Baoba, that's BAOBA.us.
Fantastic. And for everybody watching and listening, I also put all those links into the show notes, so you can find Prudence's YouTube channels, as well as connect with her on LinkedIn and check out the website. So Prudence, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate your time and your insights.
It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you. It's a good conversation.
Yeah, this was an amazing conversation. Much appreciated. And so, everybody, thank you as well for tuning in to this episode of the Get Ready Money podcast. Please remember to subscribe and like this video. Thanks. Until next time.